Well, from one great coach to another, welcome to another season of coaching. This video is going to take you through a few bits and pieces to help you improve your coaching so that one day might be out here you're coaching. Let's get stuck into it. G'day, my name is Will Tatchell, so I'm the Coach Education Development Lead for AFL Tas. And on the briefing that we're going to go through now, we're going to go through the role of the coach and how that actually looks for you, how you do that at training, then flow that into game day coaching. Quite importantly, concussion management is a hot topic and something we need to cover off on. We're going to go through child and youth safety and your obligations and responsibilities there, and then we're going to finish off with some session resources, so where you can continue to improve your coaching. Understanding your role as a coach. So what actually is good coaching? Primarily it's about inspiring a love for the game. So that's making it fun, engaging, enjoyable for not only individuals but for the group that is in your control. Making training simple and fun will make that happen much better. Getting to know your players, so knowing the people before they're athletes or players, is critical. As a coach, you need to show that engagement and care towards every one of them, because we're fostering that participation and enjoyment in the game will hopefully keep kids in the game for much longer, and then allow them to transition through to senior football for a fair bit of longevity. And practicing competence, confidence, connection and character in each of those players, so that we're actually fostering development outside of football. So we're trying to develop great people as well. And as well as teaching the game, making sure that you as a coach are organised, that the activities that you're actually training have purpose and are game-based. We're trying to get the maximum amount of touches in there. It's high energy and drills move quickly. This experience obviously makes it more fun and develops the players' abilities. So how do we coach best? It's through some effective coaching strategies. So we want to create a positive learning environment. Like a school situation, kids that are engaged and having fun are going to learn much quicker. Traditional training environments are often a coach-centered approach, which typically sees a coach constantly sort of telling instructions, solving problems, and telling players where to run, what to do, and why they're doing that. And quite often that can be stationary behind cones, waiting them to kick the ball in what is quite a repetitive drill. The challenge with a traditional approach to coaching is that there is a minimal transfer of learning from training to game day. So the kids aren't learning as much. With a player-centered approach, we have a focus on development. Players have that opportunity to experiment and create their own solutions by problem solving individually and as a unit through trial and error. They need to be able to make decisions both with and without the ball and seize these cues that resemble scenarios that can happen in a game. And by doing that, training can look messy and mistakes will happen, but that's okay. As coaches, the message to the players we need to encourage them. We need to embrace that learning component, that it might be a struggle initially, and then we empower them to keep trying to solve those problems. And effectively, when they get out into a game, they already have been through those environments and they understand what to do. Look, a key focus of each training session is to teach the fundamental skills of football, but let's do it in a game sense approach. So what is it? It's playing games to practice these skills rather than practicing the skills in isolation, sort of the traditional way that it has been done in the past. These games they're designed to emphasise specific skill strategies, skills that are learnt within a game-based context. Better transfer into the game and the players develop a greater understanding of how to play the game. Now, as a coach, our job is to question and guide the players towards making these decisions in these circumstances. Why do we use it? Because kids or players adapt their technique in game situations. It teaches them to understand the game, the when, the why, the how, and an appropriately applied principle, it works. So they transfer that learning from training to game day, depends on the extent at which training resembles game day. So we all hear about train as you play, and in this game sense approach could never be more true. Now, structuring your training plans is critical in developing this game sense approach and facilitating the learning that we require for these players. So you can see the training plan that we've got in front of us. It's broken up into a game type format. So pre-game, we want to allow that unstructured play. So let kids check side from the boundary. Let them torpedo it if they want to. Let them dribble kick it, because this is where kids actually embrace that creativity and they get those skills that might not normally be practiced. Moving into quarter one, we focus on a fun warm-up with fundamental movements. So we're still trying to teach those basics of the game. Quarter two, we emphasise practicing those fundamental football skills with repetition. So we're trying to repeat these skills, and you as a coach can hear we can improve individuals or teams as a unit with feedback to each of them. So if you see someone doing a handball incorrectly, that's the point that we can actually improve that fundamental skill. Quarter three, we practice applying these fundamental skills in these game situations. So this is where the skill transfer occurs. This is where the learning really accelerates for the players. And then in quarter four, we play the game with rules, and we can change it. We'll come to this in a little bit to highlight these specific skills. Kids love playing these games, and we need to facilitate that. In between all of these, it's an opportunity for obviously the kids to get a break, a drink, much like a quarter time or half time break. But it's also an opportunity for you as coaches to ask the questions about an activity that you've done or about to go into to the group about the why, the purpose of why things are happening. It's also a time where you can utilise your assistant coach or a parent to set up the next drill if you haven't already done so. So that the playing group can just transition straight into the next drill without idle time. So how do we best go about this? You can see on the screen a couple of examples from the youth coaching curriculum. On the left is a training activity template which allows you to design a drill or an activity for your own purposes. Is it when do you do it? Is it offensively or defensively based? The numbers, the variations that you can do, how much space that you actually need. And it allows you to really drill down to what your focus is and how you're going to improve about a playing group. On the right-hand side, you can see a session plan. So broken down into a game format, and it allows you to understand why you're going to do this. So it's about being organised, planning with the purpose, having that session plan and the context in which allows you to focus on the skill set and the learning rather than thinking, what activity am I going to do next? Being in a safe environment, so have you got enough space to do an activity? Are the groups too small or too big? And is the right equipment being used? The purpose of each activity. Why are you doing an activity? And you probably need to communicate this to your playing group, or at least ask the playing group, why are we doing this activity? Why do you think we're doing this? And you might get some interesting answers initially, but it engages them and we get that learning component happening. Is it an engaging activity or session? Are you maximising the touches of the ball for every player in every session? Can you put another cone in that will make a difference in a certain activity that will promote more touches? And more than anything, are they having fun? Are there lots of games? Is there movement? So we don't want cues, no lectures, lines or laps. We want to have fun with these players. Now, within the realms of planning your session, sometimes it's not going to go right. And an activity that you set out to do may not work the same way that you envisaged it. But we have tools at our disposal as coaches in which to change these activities. And we call it Change It. You can see the acronym down the left-hand side there. So within an activity, our coaching style, have we used questions to set challenges or specific aspects of the game? So asking ways in which, is it offensively minded, is it defensively minded for the playing group? Increasing the opportunities to score, changing up a drill or an activity, does that make a difference? What happens when you change the area in which you're operating in nice and tight, the confines, it might work on handball and pressure. Open the same activity up to space, and it might promote a bit of movement and running patterns for some of the players. Numbers, what happens if you add more in or less in, and varying the ratio? Is it a 4-on-2? Is it a 4-on-3? Is it a 4-on-1? Depending on how that activity looks, what happens when you change that up? Changing the rules slightly. It might be a handball football game where you receive the ball and you can't actually move, so your feet are stuck. How does that make players around that individual with the ball move? Varying the size and type of equipment used. So sometimes you might throw in a tennis ball. It's a really handy tool to throw in, and it really changes it up. And you wait to see what the players and how the players interact with that tennis ball, and then reintroduce a football and see how the activity goes. Modifying activities to engage individuals to maximise their involvement. We want to include all the players that you have on a team into that drill. So how do we change that up? And then reducing or extending the time to perform these actions. 30 seconds to go, what happens? Or we've got 2 minutes to get as many touches as we can, whatever it might be. We're now going to move into game day coaching. So this is some strategies for effective game day coaching. Your game day planning is pretty critical. So your time management. Establishing a consistent game day routine, especially when working with junior and youth players, is critical. You can see on the right-hand side a time management example. So if we've got a 10 o'clock game, you're working backwards, and having the players and even the parents understanding what this time looks like pre-game will make your job as a coach so much easier, because your players won't be asking questions about when things are done. They know, and you might even print this off or put it on a whiteboard so that the playing group know immediately what's going to happen. As far as rotations, plan your rotations in advance to the best of your ability. Obviously, things change across the course of a game, but this is by planning forward, you avoid having players sitting on the bench for extended periods. You might even delegate the rotation management to an assistant coach or a parent for consistency and efficiency. You might even hand it off to the playing group. If you're coaching an older playing group, having the players take responsibility for their own rotations and their own magnet movement can actually facilitate that playing time to a much greater efficiency. And then how are you communicating to your players and parents about these game times and rotations? Obviously, we want to use respectful, consistent coaching language. And the more that you can get a playing group or a parental group on side and let them understand what a pre-game process is, and then the rotations that are there, the easier your job as a coach is going to be. Communication as a coach is a critical component. And often as coaches, we can get caught talking too much. So in a pre-game address where we want you to be calm, composed, and encouraging. What can we control as a playing group? And the message should align with what you've done during the course of that week on how to improve in a certain skill or a certain particular area of gameplay that resonates or you've had to improve on or works with your game plan. And probably a key thing is you have a maximum of 3 points. Kids don't remember stuff at the best of times, unfortunately. So minimising those focus points will allow you to cut through with your message. In your quarter time breaks, ask the playing group questions, okay? What do you think we're doing well? What are 3 things we could do better? What is the opposition doing that we can change up? It is asking the playing group those questions, and obviously sometimes you're going to have 2 or 3 players that are going to have all the answers. Look for the answers from others that you can promote understanding and learning from. And then at the end of the game, keep it brief. Highlight the successes that are there, the improvements, the individual improvements that have happened, and then what's happening next week. Regardless of a win or a loss, keep your emotions in check. And most importantly, show you care with your emotional intelligence. Make it brief as well. You got to understand that some of these kids, The most exciting thing that they're after now is going to the canteen, so keeping it short and sharp. They're also tired. Work on what you're going to focus on at training next week and let them get out of there. Into concussion management. Now, your influence as a coach is critical in this area. So I think we could all agree that concussion is certainly real and we need to treat it seriously. And it starts with us as coaches. So this is where we need to start to change our mentality around this. So any head injury that occurs, a player must come off for an assessment. And the coach can't dictate then when that player can return. It should be up to a qualified trainer that decides whether or not a player can return to the field of play. And regardless of what the decision is, it is up to us as coaches to support that trainer. The medical clearance needs to be issued before returning to play or training. And the return to play program has 3 stages. So rest, recovery, and a graded return to training and play. Now, the updated guidelines insist on a minimum period of 24 hours for each of these steps. And if any of the symptoms reoccur during either one of those stages, the player must go back into the previous spot, symptom-free, before progressing forward. Now, the return to play has changed this year. The return to play on the 21st day after the day on which the concussion was sustained. So this is as of 6th of March 2024. So effectively, a player that comes off with a head injury or a concussion will miss 2 games. Concussion is such a serious injury that we as coaches have to take this seriously. We just have to treat it like it is a hamstring injury and we don't have a player for that period of time. This is where changing the mentality of us as coaches and not placing the pressure on the player to return is so critical. Our brains and the brains of our players are so important that we need to change the understanding around this, and it's up to us as coaches to do that. So as a return to play example, so the injury occurs on day 0. The player is assessed at that point on the bench at day 0, and they have a concussion. So from day 1 to 7, they're resting. And this will change. Every concussion injury is individualised, and there is no return to play that is exactly the same. So this is very much a broad example. Day 3 to 12, they're in recovery. Now, keeping involved, day 7 to 20, within the realms of the injury itself, having a player sit out for 21 days is a long time. Maintaining a connection with the group and the coaches for that player is critical to maintaining enjoyment and fun across the course of the year. Day 7 to 20, we get medical clearance. So that's where it might be a return to training. They might even get clearance to play, but not until that 21st day. So day 7 to 20, they can return to non-contact training. And then finally on day 21, a return to play. The Child and Youth Safe Organisations Framework is something that is going to come into play from July 1st this year, where sporting clubs are going to have the following elements of the framework have to be in place. So the Child and Youth Safe Standards are 10 principles that organisations must put into practice when they engage with children and young people. And also the Reportable Conduct Scheme is a compulsory scheme that requires organisations to report and investigate concerns about conduct related to child abuse within those organisations. So this framework prioritises and promotes the safety and well-being of children and young people. What does this mean for you as a coach? Well, you're in a role where players, kids, trust you. You're in a role where they look up to you, and whether you believe it or not, you have an influence over these children, and subsequently there is a trust involved there. So a player might come to you with an issue at home or something that's happened at training, and it's your obligation is to report that if required. Be aware of the potential areas of reportable conduct. So you can see here, reportable conduct includes criminal and non-criminal behaviour, broadly speaking. So it can be emotional or psychological harms, neglect, physical violence, sexual offence, sexual misconduct, grooming, and relevant offences such as failing to report child abuse and female genital mutilation. So there's some significant things there that you may become aware of that we need to report. And it's important that you know who at your club you can report to or where to make those reports in the broader community. The other thing that as coaches you need to make sure that you're not putting yourself in unsafe situations where a potential allegation could be made against you. So that is critical, not only for the promotion and prioritisation of safety and wellbeing of children and young people, but also for yourself. As far as improving your own coaching, here are some coaching resources that you can utilise across the course of the season to improve your coaching. So the AFL Learning Hub, the play.afl, is a great resource for the junior coach curriculum, the youth coaching curriculum, all of these training plans and activity sort of templates that you can work your way through, and I implore you to go and check that out. Rookie Me is a great resource for training plans and activities. So it's got a great activity database there that you can log in and you can dial in your specific age group, the number of players that you've got at training, that you want to work on a handball drill or an exiting 50, and it will allow you to choose those activities that you want to do. Ball Magnets is a terrific training app for some programs, skill development, run by Tommy Mitchell, Paddy Cripps and Lockie Neal. And then Enhanced Football has some terrific videos on their YouTube channel as far as skill development that you can either use as a coach or you can pass on to players if they need it. With regards to some game day specific rules, particularly the anti-density rule in youth games, it's been put in place as a best practice approach, giving the players more time to make better decisions and allowing for a more free-flowing game. We want to reduce the full ground press, and in that we provide forwards and defenders the ability to develop their craft in leading to or defending the ball entering the 50. So the rule applies at all stoppages, including ball-ups and boundary throw-ins. And effectively what has to happen is, this example on the screen is there's 18 players on the field. At a stoppage, you must have 5 pairs behind the centre line. So that's 5 defenders and 5 forwards behind that centre line until the ball comes back into play. Basically what this does is it allows space and opportunity for players further up the ground to develop their craft. Now, it's not the umpire's responsibility to coach this anti-density rule or pull the players back. That is the responsibility of the coach and your team managers to manage that. The umpires will provide a instruction that potentially a team is not doing this or should do this in the first instance. After that, there will be a free kick paid if this continues to be ignored. And if that continuation of that, E points might be deducted. There are further guidelines to this available from the governing bodies, and it's there again to promote and teach the art of one-on-one football. Another rule that you may have to abide by across the course of the year, particularly obviously in the under-12s and under-14 girls, is the mercy rule. It applies when a score differential reaches 60 points. And once it's invoked, it stays for the remainder of the game. The specifics of it, after a goal is scored by the leading team, play is restarted with the trailing team ruck person taking the possession of the ball in the centre circle and the opposition ruck positioned in the centre. So similar to a ruck infringement, it's a free kick from the middle of the ground. As per the restart rule, depending on the numbers on the ground, it's either 6-6-6 or 5-6-5. All players must remain in their starting positions. The free kick will be taken from the centre circle, and all the on-ballers and wingers must stay behind the centre circle away from the kicker. If this doesn't occur, a 50-metre penalty will be paid by the umpire. Now, at this point, the kicker can decide whether to take the kick or play on. After a point is scored by the leading team, the trailing team will take the kick in from the 50-metre arc, and the umpire will advance the kick and set the mark, and the kicker can again choose to decide whether to take the kick or play on. One thing I would say, that if you're in the position as a leading coach, noticing that it is starting to get closer to that 60-point differential, you as a coach have levers and triggers that you can pull within your team to ensure that it potentially doesn't get to that 60 points. That will allow you to coach your team far more in the style that you would prefer. So you might have an opportunity to play some players on ball or in key positions that they might not normally do. This might permit the game to continue without that 60-point differential, and it's what I would encourage you to do, so that as a coach you have the ability to learn from this situation and allow your players to continue to play a free-flowing game before that 60-point differential comes into play and the mercy rule is invoked. So how do we maximise your impact as a coach? Often you might only have a playing group for an hour a week training and then a bit over an hour on a Saturday or Sunday game day. So maximising your impact is critical. Let's do that through positive coaching. So emphasising the fun aspect, the development-orientated coaching philosophy. Little wins, so little wins across a training or game day make a huge difference, and making playing groups aware of that can foster that improvement and eagerness to return, not only for training but also for game day. Your coaching approach, so collaborate with your players on goal setting to motivate and challenge them. It's a really nice balance, that motivating and challenging them, because the playing group will be quite varied, and engaging your players by guiding rather than directing. Telling kids what to do isn't necessarily the best way in which to facilitate that learning. Group management, so little things like positioning the group away from distractions, taking a knee, taking your sunglasses off, turning them away from the sun so that you're looking into the sun and not them, and ensuring eye contact, waiting for that readiness so that you're actually cutting through. And then primarily your good communication. Are you loud, clear, engaging, asking those questions, concentrating on what the players can actually control and limiting your main points to 2 to 3 points per session. And then the feedback. What are you getting out of it? So do you have a mentor? Do you have someone that you trust that is able to provide you with some points in which you can improve on? So there's always a case for reflection and learning through either resources, workshops, mentorships and networking. As far as mentor or developer program, AFL TAS offers this coach developer program, which is available to all coaches across the state. So it's a coaching support network in each region, and it's there to provide you with support, mentoring and guidance in any facet of AFL football. So whether it be game day, whether it be training, coming up with drills, skill acquisition, our idea is to provide high quality coaching environments. So if it's something that you would like a developer to come out and facilitate a training, offer you some feedback, please get in contact with me. It is a service that we want to promote, that we want to get out to improve our coaches and to improve our fundamental understanding of the game, and that will obviously facilitate to a greater learning for all our junior and youths. Right, well, that's the end. Thanks for learning through this. Hopefully you've got some takeaways to take out of it. If you need anything, my details are on the screen there. Please reach out and we can try and help where we can. The whole idea is for me not to come in and tell you what to do. It's to get you to rethink how you coach and improve. Thanks for listening. I wish you all the best.
There we go, coaches. We love what you do. We want you to get towards this spot here so that one day, you never know, might be you out there coaching. Good luck for the season.